So, on some different news here, this was something that I thought was very interesting that I wanted to share, and there's a very specific reason as to why I'm sharing this, but we'll get into that here in a second. New Tribes game emerges 11 years after Tribes Ascend came out. So, a brand new Tribes game is in development, and fresh details on it have begun to emerge. Tribes is a multiplayer sci-fi FPS series, often dubbed the world's fastest shooter, that saw 5 releases from 98 to 2012. The most recent entry, the critically acclaimed Tribes Ascend, was developed by Hi-Rez Studios years before it released Smite, Paladins, and Rogue Company. The new Tribes, which is yet to receive an official title, is in development at Prophecy Games, a new studio founded in late 2019 within the Hi-Rez Studios umbrella. But in early 2020, Prophecy spun off from Hi-Rez to become an independent studio, and it looks like it took Tribes with it. FPS-Z reports fresh playtests from the new Tribes game kick off soon and published a number of screenshots from a previous playtest. These images provide us with our first looks at the new Tribes game, which does not have a release window. According to FPS-Z, the new Tribes is still in early development, so the images do not reflect the current state of the game. However, they're indicative of the look and style of the new Tribes, which rekindles memories of Tribes Ascend. That perhaps shouldn't come as much of a surprise, given some of the people who worked on Tribes Ascend at Hi-Rez are apparently now working on this new Tribes game at Prophecy Games. Prophecy Games has one game under its belt, a free-to-play sci-fi quote, corridor extraction shooter called Star Siege Dead Zone. It launched in early access form on Steam in July to mixed user reviews. Meanwhile, Tribes Ascend is still playable online, although it's unlisted on the Steam store and will not appear in searches. So, of course, the main reason that I bring this up is because of its affiliation with Hi-Rez, and the, breakaway from the, from Hi-Rez, Prophecy Studios breakaway from Hi-Rez. Which, I mean, with the way that Hi-Rez has restructured everything within the last year, they're probably still owned by and, managed in some capacity by Hi-Rez. I don't think that there was a full break because I was invited to the Star Siege, what do they call it? The Star Siege, Star Siege Dead Zone. I was invited to the Star Siege Dead Zone alpha tests and some of the closed beta tests that they have. Never went to them because, didn't have time at the time to do it, which that's gone through a whole thing that we'll get into here in just a second. But it's very interesting that, Tribes was the thing that kind of put Hi-Rez on the map. They got the license to Tribes back in the day. They put out Tribes Ascend. And of course, at the time that it was released, it was kind of a big deal because there wasn't a lot of stuff that was happening in that. Well, there's not a lot of stuff happening now either, but there definitely wasn't a lot of stuff happening at that time. And I think that if a new Tribes came out today, I think it would do well because all Tribes is like Unreal Tournament in space on a larger map, like a much larger map. And then you have a lot of movement abilities and stuff. Like you have jetpacks and you have grappling hooks, things like that. So it's kind of leaning into that whole finals feel. Like that's it felt like the finals before the finals was a thing, So I think that it could do good. I think that it could be popular, but I'm not sure how receptive the overall gaming community is going to be for a Tribes game at this moment. Because arena shooters just aren't doing well. Look at Halo. Halo did a free-to-play game, which of course it only released on Xbox and on PC, but they released a free-to-play multiplayer Halo game where it lost 90% of its player base in the first 6 months. So the only arena shooters that are doing well right now are the tactical shooters, which is Valorant, Counter-Strike, and things like that. Overwatch is kind of an arena shooter, or at least I would akin it more to an arena shooter, but it's a hero shooter. You have different abilities, you have different things that you can do, and Tribes is like, everybody's the same. You fight over power weapons, all that good stuff. So, but I'm not sure how, yeah, right. Like I said, it feels like playing Unreal Tournament, but with a jetpack. Like that's the best way to sum it up, because it has that same floaty movement, that same fast paced movement that like Unreal Tournament and Quake 3 Arena had, but you had a lot more verticality in it because you had a lot of different ways to access, different heights in the map with the jetpack and all that kind of stuff. So, but one thing that I wanted to hit on before we got a little bit further into it was the Star Siege Dead Zone. So Star Siege Dead Zone was a quote corridor extraction shooter. So from what the best that I can gather from it off of emails and stuff that I've received is you're a group of people, there's like floating abandoned or destroyed spaceships. Your team is going to the spaceships and other teams are going to the spaceships to gather loot. Now, on those spaceships are different things, such as like aliens may be on there, or some type of like infestation, some type of virus that's turned the crew hostile. Like there's different things that are happening. So it was PvPvE, right? Prophecy Games, who have yet to release a full game yet, has decided that they are going to split Star Siege into 2 games. You're going to have Star Siege, the extraction PvP shooter, and then Star Siege, the extraction PvE shooter.
Why?
I don't, because people were either really stoked to do the PvP stuff or really stoked to do the PvE stuff, and they thought the best move for them moving forward was to split that experience so that the people that only like the PvP could get that experience and the people that only like the PvE could get that experience.
So you got to download 2 games.
Yes, basically.
If you want to play them both.
Yes, yeah. When in reality, they could have just put missions in there that were PvP only missions and had those as like hot raids that are timed where people were like, oh, we've got a raid coming up. They could have really honed in onto that MMO kind of mentality there. And then also PvE, I'm partying up with my bros. We're going to go raid this starship again. And we don't have to worry about another crew showing up and fighting those guys. Like they could have done both in one game and it could have been successful. Why they split it is a Hi-Rez decision if I've ever heard one.
I like the split stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But on the heels of this, as far as a new Tribes game that comes out, if it's free to play, cross play, Corey, are you going to check it out?
I'll check it out for sure. But I mean, I've never been a big fan of arena shooters. I played a lot of Quake when I was younger, and it was just because like my friends would play it in LAN stuff,
Yeah.
And I hated it so much. I mean, if y'all guys played it, I'd probably play it. You know how it be.
Well, on the heels of that, like Garbo, would you rather have a Tribes game or an Unreal Tournament, like an updated Unreal Tournament game?
I would prefer that.
There's definitely more.
If you're going to play that game, why not play an OG, right?
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Star Siege Dead Zone, Dirt, are you going to download 2 games to get the full experience?
I think what they should do is like whenever you download it, just ask you, hey, do you want this with it?
Yeah.
And you can tick it, like COD or something. It's like, do you want this to?
Yeah.
But I would rather play that game than this Tribes game.
Yeah,
that game kind of sounds cool.
Yeah, right. And see
I can go play the finals. I mean,
yeah. And I think that the Star Siege thing is an interesting enough idea because I don't think that they've released, at least as far as I'm aware, like a extraction based shooter that is like starship based. We've got like alien extraction shooters and stuff in the past where you're on a planet. What was the Cycle? I think was one where you're on an alien planet and you're trying to harvest materials, things like that.
Materials.
Yeah, it's a whole new thing.
Could be 10.
Yeah, materials. Yeah, but you're landing in. It's more of like a BR type of feel, but like the idea behind this is really good. You have a group of 3 to 4 people. And there's also other groups of 3 to 4 people that are getting the distress beacon, and you can show up. You can try to work with the people I mean, that's an interesting, unique experience, but they're already trying to kill it before it gets off the ground by splitting it into two separate things. Why does Hi-Rez feel like it has to make decisions like this?
Well, that company claims they're fully independent, but I bet they're just.
Well, I can
I went to their
claim.
website and it says that they're fully independent.
Well,
Like,
I don't know about
you got
that.
an infrared?
Yeah. Yeah. So who knows? I mean, hopefully that at least one, two, if not all three of these will be fully released, will come to consoles, will have the crossplay, because they're going to have the rally here stuff. So crossplay, cross progression is absolutely going to exist once they get to that stage. Hopefully they'll get off the ground and we'll have an opportunity to experience them, but we'll see. We'll absolutely see.